Welcome everyone. Today we're going to be talking about some apps, Chrome extensions, and device features that are really useful for accessibility. And if you want to go ahead and just put in the chat some of the features or topics that you're interested in related to Chrome or apps that are useful. So for example, if you're looking more for apps that help with your students' focus or with readability, just more information for me as we move forward with today's training if you have a specific thing that you're looking to find for your students. And I'm Carrie Lane. I'll be presenting today. I am part of the EdTech team. I'm a project specialist, and I focus a lot on accessibility. I have a real passion for it, which stems from my background in teaching middle school and third grade. And one of the things that I think was really drawing to me when I was teaching third grade especially was how you could use program features and different apps and extensions to meet the needs of your different students. So within my last third grade class, I had students that really spanned the gamut of different accessibility needs. So I had students who had ADHD, I had students who had autism, Down syndrome, and so I was constantly on a quest to find the best apps and extensions that would work for my students. And that got me really invested in accessibility, which then working in the county, I've had the pleasure of being able to work with accessibility on a more regular basis and become assistive tech certified. But I love apps and extensions, and I'm excited to share them with you. And I see in the chat some text to speech we're interested in, math equations, perfect, read aloud for PDF. So I think we're going to cover all of those today, and quite a few more. And so for today's resources, Alicia is going to be continuing to share the slides for today on the chat. I also want to point out that the second link on the resources page is this large little menu or large big menu that I worked on creating, and it's categorized. So you'll see the tool name with a link to the tool, whether it's an app, an extension, a website, or just a resource. And then the topic for support, a little description, the privacy policy, and the pricing. And the reason I wanted to share this with you all and include things like the privacy policies is because there are so many different tools out there, and you'll see today that a lot of them do similar things. So just because they're on this list or I share them today doesn't mean that that's the one that would be best for your students or for your district. So knowing your districts and showing them those privacy policies, that can really help you match the best tools, and working with support specialists and 504 and IEP specialists, that'll really be the best way to go for figuring out what tools meet your students' needs. But here are a lot that you can start with and kind of a jumping point just to see what's out there. So the first thing that we're going to be covering a lot of is Chrome extensions. And a lot of our schools use Chromebooks, so Chrome extensions can be really useful. And what Chrome extensions are is they're a way that you can customize the browsing experience for yourself, or if your students are using Chromebooks, that you can customize the experience for them. And just a thumbs up, how many of you have students that are using Chromebooks or using computers where they are able to use Chrome extensions? See a couple in the chat. Okay, great. So Chrome extensions are a really easy lift as long as you are using a Chromebook or something that has the Chrome browser. And the way that you get there is you go to the Chrome Web Store. And I like to search by themes. So I might look up accessibility. And if you do that, you're going to find a lot about checking for accessibility. So maybe not what you're looking for specifically. If instead you're looking for a specific thing like readability, you can click into that, and then you'll find lots and lots of apps that are all out here to help with readability. And from there, if you click into one of those, and this one doesn't follow the privacy policies, so I can't use it, but if you click into here and you find a tool that meets with your district's privacy policies, you'll probably have the option to add it to Chrome. You hit add to Chrome, and then you hit add extension. And once you do that, this little puzzle piece icon is going to be where all your extensions are. And I see in the chat that Elizabeth said yes to Chromebook, but mostly no for extensions. So this would be somewhere where you'd want to look through with your district and just see which ones they are allowed to do. If not, Chromebooks have a lot of accessibility features that you can use specifically for your students. So even if you can't use extensions, there are still a lot of options out there for you. So any questions on just how to get to your Chrome extensions? You can feel free to unmute or put them in the chat. Okay. So you'll notice just before I start with all of our apps and extensions for accessibility, one extension that I do use a lot, so this is a bit of a bonus, is called Extensity, and I'll type it in the chat. The reason I use this is because it really helps me to organize my Chrome extensions so that I can easily toggle them on and off, especially during presentations. And so what it does is it basically sits here, so it looks like I only have the one extension. But now anytime I want to toggle on one of my other extensions, which I have a lot of, I can just click it from here. So I'm going to turn on a couple of extensions. The first one is called Move It. And Move It is one that I used with my third grade students. As I mentioned earlier, I had a lot of students my last year of teaching who had ADHD and a lot of boys. It was a really boy-heavy class, so they all needed to get their energy out all the time. And so one way that I learned to really help them to focus on our lessons was using movement breaks. And so Move It is a fun extension that I'm going to leave on. You're not going to notice anything right away with it, but in about 10 minutes, because I have it set for 10 minutes, it's going to pop up with a pink prompt, and it's not going to let me click on my screen until I say that I've done the movement prompt. And so when I was in the middle of teaching, it was a good reminder for me that I needed to let my students get up and move about, and then we'd go back to our lesson, and that helped them to refocus constantly. So you'll see that in a few seconds. Well, actually in about 10 minutes, it'll pop up and you'll see like an example of the movement prompts that it gives. Another couple of ones that help with organization. So this, I really wanted to focus today on things to help keep your students focused, organized, and on task. And so movement helps to keep that focus going. And then also some study tools for organization. So I'm just going to go to this article right here. It's just a random accessibility article. And I'm going to turn on a little extension called URL notes. And URL notes, when you click on the puzzle piece, it looks like a little URL icon. And it pops up with a sidebar where your students, if they have it on their Chromebooks as an extension, can start to take notes within any website. So it could be in an article, it could be within a Google Doc, it could be on a YouTube video. You just get this sidebar and you take a little note. So you can have to-do items. You can also just keep notes for yourself. And when you hit enter, it pops up as notes on the sidebar. You can then look at the notes for just a specific page, or for example, if I wanted to take notes over here, this is just for this page, but now maybe I want to see all my notes from across all websites. So I can go in and now it shows me all my different notes, and you can color code them, you can share them out. So it's just a useful tool that can keep you kind of thinking about and taking notes as you're moving through the web. Any questions on that one or on Move It? Okay, well, while you are thinking of questions, I'm going to share my phone screen. I'm going to be toggling between my phone and the computer today. Okay, excellent. So the next one that I want to share is called Notebook. And so let me pull up my notebook. This is a helpful tool and it's on iOS and Android. It's a freemium app, so you get a lot of the features for free, but you also can use it with premium options if you want. Sorry, I have a bit of a cold, so you'll notice I'm struggling to talk a teeny bit. But what you can do is you can add notebooks and you can title them. So we'll just call this one my sample notebook. And when you click into the notebook, you have lots of options of what you want to add. So you can add little notes. There are some AI features, but they're more of the freemium or premium features. So you can have things that summarize, improve your writing, simplify the language. But within any of your notes, you can do journal suggestions. So things that maybe you can write about. It's not loading right now. You can also take a picture to attach to your note with your camera. So it inserts it. You can add sketches, so it has a little sketch option. And you can also add your own audio recordings. So once you're done with that, you have lots of different content you can add in. You can add as many notes as you want. There's a recording option where you can record yourself for 30 minutes. You can add yourself little lists and checklists. You can attach files. So if you want to save all your files in one place, you can scan documents or you can browse and upload documents. And you can add videos. So you can see here lots of options. And here's the journal suggestions. I'll try it again to see if it works. It's being finicky right now, but basically it gives you ideas to write about, prompts to get you started. So this could be a useful tool if your students aren't allowed to use certain extensions on their Chromebook, but you want them, and they do have options of iPads or perhaps a phone that they're allowed to use in school. You can have them take notes on here, and this keeps them kind of organized and gives them lots of options to share their thoughts in multimodal ways. As I toggle back to the PowerPoint, does anyone have any feedback on any of those or any other recommendations that they use for organization, focus, or movement? All right, so the next one is for navigation. And navigation tools are things that will help your students who perhaps have a problem with navigating using a mouse. And so maybe a student has an injury or they're unable to grip the mouse correctly or like the normal way that you would grip a mouse. They might just be able to kind of push the mouse. So there's a really great tool called click-free browsing. There are other ones out there too that allow you to do all sorts of browsing without touching a mouse. But click-free browsing is one that I want to show you. So I'm going to toggle that on. And then we'll go back to our accessibility article. I'll turn on click-free browsing. And then when I refresh my page, you'll notice here these little arrows pop up on the side. And so what this allows me to do is I don't actually need to click on anything, but if I hover over them with my mouse, it starts to scroll down. If I go to this one, it'll scroll to the end. If I go to this one, it'll scroll to the top. And when you have links and you hover over them, you'll have this option to then go and open the links without clicking. And so you can't tell because I am not with you, but I'm not touching anything. I'm simply hovering over. And like I said, there are other programs that do similar things just with tab navigation or certain keys, but this one's really nice for making it so that you can navigate through web pages without ever clicking a mouse. Okay. For speech and language, so I know that a couple of people put in that they wanted things for speech to text, and I think there might have been a text to speech in there as well. So for speech to text, of course, you have many of your programs that have it. For example, within Google Docs, you can do that. Within Microsoft, you can do that. But if you don't have a program where you are able to do speech to text, I put in a link to a website here. And this is just a pretty general speech to text platform. You click on the green icon and then you start talking and it will record what you're saying. Period. And so over here, you can see all the commands that you can say, and it will do any of those if you say those commands. You can download what you do. You can print what you do. You can also copy or send it. And another nice feature of this is that you can do this in more than 70 different languages. So if you have a specific language that you're looking to record yourself in, because that's what you're going to be speaking in, you can have it record within that main language, and then it will have the correct, you know, umlauts and things that go on top of the letters, accent marks, things like that. So that is Speech Texter. And I decided not to show you a specific text to speech program because as we go over readability later, a lot of the programs that help with readability also have text to speech. And so speech to text is a little harder to find, but text to speech, lots of the Chrome extensions do have that. And then the other one that I wanted to share with you is YouTube captions. So I have a video pulled up here, and I'm just going to go to my YouTube captioner. And I'm going to refresh. A lot of times when you're going... I know you tried it all. Sorry. Word of mouth. A lot of times when you are adding a Chrome extension to your experience, you're going to need to refresh the page before it will actually work. Just as a little tip. So with this, the nice thing about the YouTube captioner, it pops up on the sidebar and you can see it as time-stamped captions, which is really important for accessibility because you do need to have time-stamped captions on any of your videos. You can also see it more of a transcript so that you can copy it and print it out as a transcript. And then what's really cool about this is that you have the auto-generated English one, but also, and it's frozen on me, but also you can set it to have different languages. So you can have original text language first, and then you can have it translate into other languages. And so, for example, the original text is English, but I want it to be translated into Spanish, and I can set that up. And then here you'll notice that it has the Spanish and it has the English for the captions, and the same thing with the transcript. It'll have the Spanish and then it has the English. And so you can play around with it. You can have multiple different languages and then your primary language option first or second, and then a secondary language. All right. How are we all feeling? I know I'm sharing a lot of tools with you today. That's kind of what this session is, but I want to make sure that you all are feeling good. The pacing is good. Any questions? See a lot of thumbs up. Okay. Perfect. All right, so let's move into vision. And some of the vision tools are really cool. The first one I want to show you is an extension. And this as an extension is an OCR reader, so optical character recognition. So what it does is when you click it on, let me pop it up real quick. It pops up just as like a little bottom bar, and then you hit upload image, and you can pick any image from your computer. And then when you hit that image, it takes all of the text from the image and it just makes it into text that then you can copy. And you might be wondering, why would this be helpful to me? Why does it matter? And the reason is because when you have image that's within text that's within an image, and a screen reader sees it, unless you have actually copied all that text into the description, the alternative text, a screen reader is just going to think it's an image, but it's not going to say what it's an image of. And so if someone is using a screen reader because they can't see the image, they're not going to get any of what's going on within that image. So basically, it might as well be a decorative image that means nothing. And so with this, by scanning your images into here, you can then copy the text and then you can paste it. So for example, if I had this and then I wanted to, I'm just going to toggle out of this for a second. If I go to my alt text for this, and I put it, I can actually copy it in. And now a screen reader will tell somebody all of the text that's within that image. And even though that's a lot of information, at least you know that everyone now is going to be able to access all of your information. So this one is kind of a game changer for accessibility and making sure that images always have an option of being readable by a screen reader. Okay. So that's that one. And then I'm going to toggle over to my phone again. So bear with me. And we are going to get the phone going. And we're going to talk about two different apps. One is called Seeing AI, which is a Microsoft-based app. And the other one is called Envision. And they're both really interesting apps that I want to show you. Okay. All right. So this one that we'll do first is Seeing AI. And Seeing AI will read certain things. So I just have a box here that I'm going to have it read.
Bruce Jabin. True blueberry registered sign. Naturally. Celestial. Seasonings. Non-GMO. Project. Verified non-democrat true. Best deter. Dash.
Sorry, I just realized my screen was not sharing. Sorry about that. Let's try that again. Okay, perfect. So you heard it reading. So what I did was I basically just scanned a box and it started to read it. And I'm also just going to make sure you can hear my sound. Okay. And can you thumbs up if you can hear my sound too with this? So then it has read where it reads directly.
01V video. Progress. So,
Or
8
you can
describe.
describe. So if you take a picture of something, now it'll do a description of something instead.
Processing. The image shows a box of Celestial Seasonings True Blueberry Tea. The box contains 20 tea bags with a net weight.
So as you can see, reading is just you scan and point and it reads to you. Description is you take a picture and it describes it. And then more is really cool because it has some extra features. So it recognizes light, it recognizes color, it recognizes currency, and then it also recognizes different things that you can set. So I'm gonna try to talk through it and it might just talk over me a little bit, but bear with me. Like you can see as it sees different frequencies, it makes different noises. Color,
color, brown, violet and yellow, gray and blue. Product,
it recognizes QR codes.
product. Celestial Seasonings Herbal Tea Caffeine.
It also can, if you set it correctly, you can say, for example, you can take multiple pictures of your computer and then you can have it recognize your computer in multiple locations so that when you're looking for your computer, it'll search for your computer. Same thing with people. So I could have it recognize Alicia, who is on here today manning the chat, or I could have it recognize my dog. And then when I point it at my dog, it will recognize based on facial recognition. And it can recognize.
Currency, $20.
So that's Seeing AI. And the other one I want to show you is called Envision. And Envision is similar to Seeing AI, but it has a few features that are different that I really like. And it just shut down on me. Let's see. Come on, you can do it. All right, well, I will talk while it's loading and it may not work for me today, which is a pity, but I will explain what it does anyway. So Envision, what's nice about it is it has commonly used items. For example, it has things like doors or computers or coffee cups. And when you point your phone at that cup, it'll make a noise to notify you that it found a coffee cup or it found a door. And so while Seeing AI is really nice, a lot of the prompts you actually need to be able to see to point the picture toward. But in Vision, you basically just hold your camera wherever you are and it will recognize things for you and you can navigate it through with the microphone. So I'm going to try one more time and if it doesn't work, then we'll move on. Think it's just too much for my phone today. But so it can recognize commonly found items and it can also just explore your surroundings and talk to you. So it'll see your computer and say computer. It will see your tissue box and say tissue box. All right, let me switch my share back. Any questions on those apps for Vision?
Hi, I'm Leslie. I do have a question about the seeing apps because I have a student that is colorblind, and I was wondering, it seems like, from what I can understand, I apologize, I'm driving. It seems like what I can understand is that it would be very useful for that student. Is that only an app that's on a phone, or is there some type of Chrome extension that works similarly?
So there are a lot of Chrome extensions that do help with certain things with vision. In terms of it being an app, it is an app that's on iPad and pretty much any iOS platform. Um, and there are some apps, or sorry, extensions that will help you with like zooming or seeing things more clearly, readability. I don't think, as far as I know, that Seeing AI has its own extension though. But that's a great question, Leslie. If you, when you're done driving, if you want to put your name, your full name in the chat, I'll look into it and get back to you on whether there's anything that's really comparable that's an extension. But I think it's only different apps that can be used on different types of app-related devices, iOS, Android, things like that.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I'll do that.
Yeah, perfect. All right, let's go back to our slideshow. And we're going to go into now some hearing apps. And so the first one that I want to share with you is actually an extension, and it is one that's very useful for students who need things to be louder, but also just for your classroom in general. I know for me, when I was teaching, sometimes the volume on videos wouldn't be loud enough no matter what I did. And so even though you can like toggle the volume up to a certain amount and it can get really loud, Sometimes that's not loud enough for what you need. So Volume Master, and there are a bunch that do a similar thing. Volume Master basically takes your sound and it amplifies it up. So if you listen,
Cold outreach, ads. Maybe it worked before, but I have a prediction for your business. 2024, when you want to reach that $100,000 year or month, what worked to get you here will not work to get you there. Why? Well, it's very, very simple. In order for you to get in front of the right people willing to pay the right price for your
so as you can see, it amplifies the normal sound to six times, so 600, rather than 100. And also you can make it so that the voice is more clear or the bass is more clear. So depending on what a student needs, you can adjust the bass versus the voice and the sound. And the other one that I want to share is called Hand Talk, and that is a phone-based app, and it is an ASL translating app. So just by a show of hands or in the chat, how many of you have students who are deaf, hard of hearing, maybe using sign language, emerging in sign language? I see a couple of nods. I see. Okay. Let's get this up again. So if you have a student who is trying to learn sign language, or if you're trying to communicate with somebody who does speak sign language, there's this really nice app. It's called Hand Talk, and I'm going to pull it up. And as a side note, while I'm pulling this up, a lot of these apps and extensions at our Linda Vista Innovation Center, where I currently work, we do an accessibility experience with students, and we actually have students engage with all of these different apps and extensions hands-on, just so they can start to understand and think about things through an accessibility-based lens. So students are actually really into this Hand Talk app and learning how to say different things in sign language. So it'll translate different words. We'll just say winter. And so you can start to see all of his expressions for winter. You can change the default language. And one thing that I do with this one a lot is if I know that I'm going to have a student who does speak sign language and I don't speak sign language, I will do a screen recording of my iPhone screen. So just scroll down on that like general, where is it? Bar, and you can hit the recording icon. And then you can toggle back to Hand Talk and you can record all of the vocabulary for your lesson into small snippets of videos that your students can then see. So that's a really great way to make vocabulary accessible to your students who know ASL. And so I'm just going to stop the screen recording. And there you go. And that's a freemium one. So all of the translation is free. You just get some ads in between. But then if you want to take like common documents and translate a whole document into ASL, then that's where it starts to be a premium feature. All right, as I toggle back, I'm going to check the chat and see how we're doing. Okay. Doesn't look like there are any questions. Just going to give about a minute before I move on to readability because there are a lot of these. So does anyone have anything they want to share? Any apps that they use that I haven't mentioned? All right. Feel free to share them in the chat if you do think of one. And so now we're going to move into a few different readability extensions, and I will just show them one by one. But what they do is they adjust things within an article or a PDF that make it much easier for your students to focus. I used a lot of these with my third graders as they were learning to do different things and read different articles. Let me refresh this really quickly and we'll jump in to our first one, which is ladder view or ladder reader. So with ladder reader, you'll notice that the original article looks very different from what comes up. So some of the changes that ladder reader makes, the first is that it changes it to more dyslexic friendly fonts. And so generally dyslexic friendly fonts are ones that have larger letters that are not as distracting. And actually Comic Sans is one of those that is really good for dyslexia. So you'll notice that it changes it to a dyslexic friendly font. And you can pick from a few different fonts, but you'll see this is the original font. This is the dyslexic font. It also has this dyslexic mode, which can help by kind of grouping letters together to make it easier to not get kind of caught up with the different words as you read. And so you have a mode A, and then there's a dyslexic mode B that changes it slightly, or you can toggle it off altogether. There's also an option for a reading ruler. So you'll notice here, if a student is having a hard time with focusing on the specific line, then you can use this reading ruler with them, or they can turn that on or off. It has text to speech, which I know people were asking about. Hopefully it starts speaking to me. Let's highlight. There we go. It just started. It started.
Equivalent experiences. What are they? Smashing Magazine 20-minute.
So you've got your screen reader, and then you have this fast mode. And what fast mode does is it subtly changes the color based on like different color contrasts. And so you'll notice that it's a little bit different here. And then it adds in these different lines. And I don't know if any of you have heard of what was called Beeline Reader, but Beeline Reader is a paid Chrome extension that, based on scientific research into reading, use different colors at the ends of different lines so that your eye naturally wouldn't get lost as you're transitioning from line to line. So you'll notice there's a gradient here. This does that same thing as Beeline Reader, but it's a free Chrome extension. So this is a great way for you to get that help reading without having to pay for the Beeline Reader. So that's the ladder reader. And I'm going to refresh back to the old version and turn off ladder reader for a second. And we're going to move into reader view. And reader view is another one that is for readability. So you'll notice this totally changes it in a different way, which is where I wanted to showcase a few different ones because depending on what your students are experiencing, some might be better than others. So what this one does, it has lots of different text options. You can change to different fonts. So for example, if your student is dyslexic, you might want to have this comic one. If your student is just like a lower vision, you might want to do a sans serif font, so it's just nice and clear. And then you can make the font bigger or smaller as you want. You can adjust the width that they're seeing. You can adjust the height of the lines. You can also decide to align the text. So for example, I know for me, it was hard to get used to with my PowerPoints. I always wanted to center align things, but center alignment is really difficult for people to read, especially people who are struggling readers. And so you can adjust the way that the text is aligned so that it's more readable for your students, or your students can adjust for themselves. You can make more columns. I'm not sure why that would be helpful, but it might be helpful for someone. And then you'll notice that there are these bold words. It's kind of trying to do that same Beeline Reader thing, but this does it with bolding. And so you can add more bold or less bold. And that's the features for the text. You can also adjust the background. So depending on what your student most likes for their contrast. It's got also
20
a
minutes
screen
read.
reader.
UX design.
The nice thing about this screen reader is it has pause and go forward and
20
backward.
minutes read. You are industry an equivalent experience.
So a little more robust than the last one. You can email things to yourself, you can print them. And then this is probably my favorite part of this one. It has this editor mode. So you can actually add pictures into an article to help you understand something. And you can add text. So for example, I'm just adding in hello there. And then when I go to print it, you'll notice I now have my own text within this article. So it's kind of like your students are now able to take this web content and make their own notes in it, add their own pictures, and then print it. And if it did have print pictures, you can hide the pictures or show the pictures. There's also a post-it note, so you can add in post-it notes. And that's pretty much it for the features, but I feel like those are a lot. So that is Reader View, and that helps with lots of different readability things. Before I move on, any questions on Reader View or on Ladder Reader? Oop, I see a question. Question regarding an extension for colorblind student or other accessibility options to aid the student. Yes, Leslie, we have one I'm going to show you. I believe it's iAble. Yes, I'm pretty sure it's iAble that has a whole colorblind filter section. And then there are other ones on this menu. I know Color Enhancer is one of them, but there are a lot of different ones out there. So if I look up readability, let's see. Let's do Color Enhancer. Color Enhancer is one. There's Dark Read, also Deluminate. All of those are ones that will change the way that your student perceives the coloring of the different screens for readability. And the last one here is Rewordify, and this is a website. It's also part of Read and Write, so a lot of you use Read and Write already. It's free for teachers, and I choose not to show that one because I feel like I've shown it a lot, but this is a feature on Read and Write, which is cool. And so if I take a paragraph of something that's kind of difficult, and I put it into Rewordify, what it's going to do is it's going to look at all the words that might be challenging for a student, and it's going to change them to less challenging words. So one thing, if your students are using this, you might want to teach them that it doesn't always flow the same way when you change the words, but at least you can understand the context. So you'll notice that it tries to change it. So the word originally was expense, I believe, oh no, equivalent, and it changed it to equal, and then deliberately, carefully planned way. And so it just takes those words and it makes them a little more simple for your students to understand. And so you can always do this yourself and, copy this to share with your students, but your students can also use this. Right. And our last two that I want to show are multi-use. So they have some readability and some other things, but I couldn't figure out a great, perfect category for them because they had a lot of things going on. So this one is called iAble, and we'll go back to our article. And here I'm going to toggle all my other ones off except Move It, which still hasn't popped up, which makes me think I might have accidentally not set it to 10 minutes, but we'll check that later. So here's iAble. And once I put here, I'm going to reactivate it on the page. Okay, so this is the icon. You can change the icon. When you click into it, you can adjust the font size, so like a lot of the other tools. And then this is the one where it has lots of different modes and filters. So you can have a blue filter, or you can turn it off. You can change to daylight mode or to night mode. It has a screen reader. It also has a toggle for tab navigation, which is really nice. So if your student wants to navigate only with the keyboard, they can do that with clicking Alt-T and then just use tab to navigate through and click on all the links. And then here is where I thought, Leslie, this might be useful for you, color deficiency. It looks at the different deficiencies your students might have, and then based on, I think, just the traditional things that help with that, it will set the screen to be a specific kind of coloration. And then you can always have your student adjust the intensity as well. But so it looks at some of the common ones, and then you can use those as your basis and adjust it a little bit accordingly. You can also change the contrast mode and the saturation mode. You can hide and show images, just like a lot of the others. And then this is kind of fun. So you can set a large cursor. So if your students are often having a hard time finding their cursor as they're reading, they can have a larger cursor. You can adjust the font to a more readable font. You can turn off animations. So animations, especially for students who maybe have inner ear or epilepsy issues, this can be a really big problem. So if you have like those GIFs and other things that are moving and animated, you can actually use this to stop those. And if there's sound that might be distracting, you can turn it off or on. And then we have a blue filter again. So those are all the options from iAble, and a lot of them are really useful. And let's move into the last one, which is called Helper Bird. Helper Bird is another one that was multi-use, so I just included it at the end. And with Helper Bird, it's freemium. So there are a lot of things it does that are free, but there are also quite a lot of things that it does that are premium. So it has a lot of those reading options. You can adjust the font, the text size, the word spacing, the letter spacing, the alignment, the line height. You can adjust the colors of the text and background, the paragraphs, so really specific and granular. Then for reading tools, you can set a highlight menu so that it'll highlight and stay with your highlights. You can also put it into reading mode, which is nice. Let me try to refresh. I think there we go. Oh, not that. Let's try it. All right, well, it's doing something. I'm not quite sure. Oh, there we go. That's what I said. Okay. So obviously I don't think this is very readable, but that's the setting I set. So it goes into reading mode. And then what I like a lot about this tool is it has the immersive reader, which is a Microsoft-based product that I really like. And they used to have an extension just called Immersive Reader, Help Me Read This, but that got discontinued. So this Immersive Reader is really useful. It basically launches the same as the Microsoft Immersive Reader, which will read aloud to you.
Our industry tends to place a lot of focus on how often at the
It allows you to change the speed, the voice selection. It has some different text options. And then it allows you to see labels for different grammar parts, so nouns, verbs, adverbs. And then you can see broken down by syllables. And my favorite portions of these, you have line focus for reading ease and a picture dictionary, which I love. So you can click on a word, it'll show you a picture, and then you can also hear the word aloud. And then back to my original, you also have the option to translate. So you can translate by word or the whole document into specific languages. So let's just do for now Czech, and let me highlight a word or a set of words. And then you'll notice when I click on the word, it has that specific word in a different language, and it'll do the same thing for the whole document. So I really like that about this. It has a PDF reader. It also has a notes, but the notes are premium features. So, and then it has text to speech and a dictionary. So a lot of those kind of common ones that are in a lot of the different tools. And that takes us to the end of my demos of tools. But like I said, I kind of tried to find ones that had a lot to show you. But if you're looking specifically, I know someone mentioned math. Photo math is a good one where you take a picture of a math problem and it will show your students the steps to solve it. Another one for math that helps you solve step by step is called Microsoft Math Solver. There are ones specifically here for organization, and other ones for focus. So a lot of the focus ones are ones that use a Pomodoro timer, which is a 20-minute or a 25-minute timer and then 5-minute breaks to help keep your kids really working and undistracted by blocking sites, and then allowing them afterwards to have a 5-minute break. And I see a question. So Julie, do you want to unmute?
I did. Thank you. Um, my question is, I'm familiar with the photo math and all that, but I have students that cannot write or align their numbers. And so I'm looking for something where they can actually do their worksheet, their math worksheet online, so they can type in the answers instead. Do you know of any of those?
Yeah, I think Math Solver, Microsoft Math Solver might be useful. And also there's a new feature in OneNote called Microsoft Ink. That might also be useful. So those are both on here.
Okay.
And then I'm trying to think, I think another thing that might be useful, they're all Microsoft, is if you take a picture for them on Microsoft Lens, you could then upload that and they can insert it into a OneNote by typing with
One.
yeah. And then there's
Okay.
Equatio that's also like math it's an extension that has math formulas. So all of
Wait.
those might be useful.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
For sure. So yeah, this list is here for you. I also want to point out for you all that I have this give and get. I always like to share this. Oh my goodness, I need to turn off this extension. Sorry. Oh, I did turn off my extensions. All right. So with this, if you have anything that you've used, your students are using that you really like, please feel free to share it here so that we can learn from each other. It's just really helpful for everybody to be able to see what other people are using who are working with students directly. And then I will leave the last few minutes for just questions. What other tools are you looking for that I can help you with? And I will just point out that we always like to get feedback for our sessions to make sure that we're meeting your needs. So if you have a chance to fill out our professional development feedback form, please feel free to do so. And I'm going to stop recording and just leave the rest of our time for questions.